Chapter 121. Do you think my old woman is blind? Old Lady Jiang said in a cold voice. Jiang Mei was smart. How could her daughter be so stupid? Gumo Cheng, Old Lady Jiang, have seen it, and I have already said yes. How can it be fake? Su Zihan cried even harder when the old lady shouted at her. Jiang Mei walked forward and held Su Zihan's hand. Zihan, stop speaking nonsense. The man in front of Su Anan was indeed Gumo Cheng. Old Lady Jiang had already said yes, that definitely was the case. Only, she had never heard of Gumo Cheng being so good-looking, and not at all like the rumored ugly bastard. Su Anan felt uncomfortable being stared at by Old Lady Jiang. There were a lot of people here, but most importantly, she was hungry. She reached out to grab Gumo Cheng's hand and said, "Hubby, I'm hungry. Let's go eat." Upon hearing Su Anan's voice, the previously cold and composed Gumo Cheng softened his expression. He looked at Su Anan and nodded. When you like someone, your eyes can't fool them. Old Lady Jiang had seen through Gumo Cheng's feelings for her, and had always thought that Gumo Cheng would never marry for that person. He didn't expect him to find Su Anan, who was around 10 years younger than him, and had even doted on her. "Mr. Gu, you forgot your past so quickly." The old lady Jiang laughed and deliberately reminded Gumo Cheng of the past. Gumo Cheng held on to Su Anan's hand, and said to everyone present, "This is Gumo Cheng's wife, Su Anan." Coming out with a sentence that was neither light nor heavy, there were Old Lady Jiang, Jiang Mei, and a group of reporters in the hall. Gumo Cheng rarely appeared in front of the media reporters, and he had always said people to attend all of the public events. But this time, not only did Gumo Cheng stand in front of the camera, he even held onto a woman's hand, telling everyone that she was his wife. His meaning was very clear. Su Anan was his wife. He had to protect her for the rest of his life. "Whoever bullies my wife is going against me." When he said that, Gumo Cheng intentionally looked towards Old Lady Jiang. Gumo Cheng held Su Anan's hand and walked towards the Chinese restaurant on the second floor. After Old Lady Jiang heard what Gumo Cheng had to say, she smirked. Gumo Cheng's last sentence was for her to hear. Shang Shu knew that she would use Su Anan to compensate her grandson because Su Anan had crippled her very own life. Even the matter today at the banquet was most likely done by Gumo Cheng. He was trying to set an example for this old woman to see. "Mom," Jiang Mei said to Old Lady Jiang when she reached the second floor with Su Anan and Su Anan. She looked at Su Zihan, who had been beaten until her face was swollen with pain. Old Lady Jiang glanced at her coldly and cursed, "Idiot." Back then, when Gumo Cheng had proposed to the Su family for marriage, the mother and daughter actually believed those rumors and allowed Su Anan to take her place and go to the Gu household. Now, her precious grandson had lost his life, and Su Anan had Gumo Cheng to protect her. It was all done by the mother and daughter pair. "Mom, I didn't know he was Gumo Cheng." Jiang Mei looked at the reporters who were still taking their photos. Old Lady Jiang signaled the people behind her to kick the reporters out. The most important thing was for them to not write anything nonsense and affect the reputation of the Jiang clan. However, this was the Gu's hotel, so Gumo Cheng allowed these reporters to come in. For a little girl, Gumo Cheng offended Su family, Mu family, and all of them. "Mom," Jiang Mei said, still wanting to say more. Old Lady Jiang looked at her coldly. "Let's talk when we return to Jiang family." With that, she brought the Jiang family people and left the hotel. Su Zihan covered her swollen face and cried as she looked at Jiang Mei. "Mom, why did Grandma help Su Anan hit me?" Su Zihan didn't think that Old Lady Jiang was afraid of Gumo Cheng. After all, Old Lady Jiang and Gu Jian were of the same generation, and Gumo Cheng was just a junior. Also, how can that man be Gumo Cheng? How can he be? Su Zihan thought of Gumo Cheng's beautiful face and said unwillingly. She thought that if Gumo Cheng was ugly, then he must be ugly, and definitely not the man from before. What beer belly, what baldness, they had nothing to do with Gumo Cheng. How could Su Anan find a man better than Mu Jinyu? "Ah!" Su Zihan couldn't accept the truth at all as she screamed crazily and stomped on the ground with all her might. Impossible. It was definitely not Gumo Cheng. "Zihan." Jiang Mei looked at the cameras aimed at Su Zihan and bellowed. She extended her hand out and grabbed Su Zihan's arm. "Let's talk when we return home." "No, I have to go up and ask Su Anan. How can that man be Gumo Cheng? Gumo Cheng is very ugly, definitely not this person." How could Su Zihan accept this fact? Because she heard about Gumo Cheng's appearance, she forced Su Anan to go to the Gu family for her. Gumo Cheng's appearance now was not because of the ugliness that was rumored to be seen. On the contrary, Gumo Cheng was even more charming than Jin Yu, surpassing him by a lot in every aspect. So, what is this? How could she be willing to give such a good man to Su Anan? "Su Zihan." Seeing that Su Zihan still wanted to look for Su Anan, Jiang Mei calmly reminded her, "You must remember Gumo Cheng's words well. If he says to return it back to you 100-fold, that means she will return it back to you 100-fold. Don't provoke Su Anan anymore." Regarding the matter at today's banquet, Jiang Mei was definitely the one who planned it behind the scenes. They should not have chosen to become Gumo Cheng's turtle in a jar for the sake of face. "Mom?" Su Zihan disagreed with Jiang Mei's words. "I didn't want to give Gumo Cheng to her." Jiang Mei understood the meaning behind her words and warned Su Zihan. "Zihan, the most important thing for you to do now is to make sure to make your grandfather and mother-in-law happy. After she finished speaking, Jian Mei had already pulled Su Zihan to the hotel entrance. The reporters around them started to ask questions through the microphone. Miss Su Zihan, you beat the child up because you were afraid of losing your figure. Don't you feel guilty towards that child? There's also this matter. Madam Su, are you acquiescing to it? Jian Mei didn't want to answer questions after questions. With Gumo Cheng's permission, no one came out to protect Su Zihan and the reporters, and old lady Jiang brought her men to leave. Being surrounded by them, Su Zihan and Jian Mei were unable to get out. They could only move forward slowly. Su Hua and Mu Jin, who were at the banquet, were not well off either. The reporters actually surrounded them at the banquet table. The other people at their tables saw the reporters coming and ran away. Mu Jin and Su Hua couldn't escape even if they wanted to. What's the matter with you all? Who let you in? Mu Jin was upset with the reporter's question and asked angrily. A reporter laughed. It was your Mu family who invited us. Mu Jin was speechless. It was not just the Mu family who invited all of the reporters from Peace City here to drink their wedding wine. However, they had wanted to let the reporters come in and take more photos of the wedding and advertise the marriage alliance between Su family and Mu family. Who would have thought that during the banquet, before the wedding ceremony had even begun, 2 scenes had already occurred. These 2 scenes immediately changed the focus to Su Zihan beating up the child and framing her sister for her. Mr. Mu, do you still want a daughter-in-law like this? Someone asked Mu Jin, and Mu Jin got angry. Mu family will join Su family to end the engagement. Su Hua was also surrounded by the reporters, and upon hearing Mu Jin's answer, the reporters asked, Chief Su, Mu family said that the marriage was to be annulled. Would you agree? Withdrawal of the marriage? Su Hua's face darkened as he replied, Zihan and Jinyu have received their certificates. Receiving the certificate was easier said than done. Chapter 122. The Chinese cafeteria on the 2nd floor was very quiet. There were only Suanan and Gumo Cheng in the hall. When she first entered, Suanan felt that there was no one here, so she immediately turned to look at Gumo Cheng and understood. As the boss behind the scenes of this hotel, if he could arrange a good show here to give to Su Zihan and Jiang Mei, he could naturally take over the entire restaurant on the 2nd floor. Suanan looked at the delicious food on the table. Her eyes lit up. She threw Gumo Cheng down and quickly sat down. Seeing her so anxious, Gumo Cheng didn't feel that she was anxious at all, but instead felt that she was cute. He followed and sat opposite of Suanan. When Suanan sat down and saw the red wine on Gumo Cheng's side, she couldn't help but to gulp down her saliva. She thought about the red wine that she drank at Gu Mansion last time, although she was drunk, but she didn't even have the chance to taste it properly. Gumo Cheng did not look at the expression that Suanan liked, and asked the waiter to open the red wine. The dark red wine was swaying in the transparent wine cup, making Suanan feel extremely uncomfortable. Pour her a cup of water, Gumo Cheng said to the waiter. Boiling water? Suanan was puzzled. Not only was Gumo Cheng drinking in front of her, he even asked her to drink some water. Boiling water could be drunk at any time, but red wine was hard to come by. Suanan lowered her head, looked at the water in her cup, and her expression entered Gumo Cheng's eyes. Gumo Cheng remembered that when he was drinking with Gu Zhen in the Gu Mansion, he thought that Suanan had been forced to drink a lot of alcohol. In the following days, when he thought back to it, Gumo Cheng felt that something wasn't right. Now, looking at Suanan's expression, he understood. She was not forced by Gu Zhen to drink at all. She was clearly gluttonous and wanted to ask for wine. She purposely used Gu Zhen's name and drank a few more cups. Thinking of this, Gumo Cheng couldn't help but smile. Even if Gumo Cheng knew that the little girl liked drinking red wine, he actually didn't hate her so much. He even remembered the look on her face when she was drunk and was filled with anticipation. You want to drink it? Gumo Cheng shook the red wine in his hand and asked. Suanan raised her head. Upon hearing Gumo Cheng's words, she had almost blurted out the word, want to drink, before quickly recalling that Gumo Cheng didn't like girls who drank alcohol. She immediately shook her head. I don't want to drink it. Oh. Gumo Cheng replied, little girl, you can't drink. After he finished speaking, Suanan replied in a low voice, then why are you still sleeping with this little girl? Gumo Cheng was drinking wine and spoke softly, but he still heard everything. Because of her words, the red wine in his mouth suddenly became stuffy and choked on his windpipe. Seeing Gumo Cheng coughing, Suanan immediately ran over with boiling water. She lightly patted Gumo Cheng's back. When Gumo Cheng raised his head and saw her worried expression, his heart softened. Actually, it doesn't matter if you drink. Really? Suanan's eyes lit up as she said. You can't get drunk? Gumo Cheng said. Suanan hurriedly nodded, yes, yes. She lowered her head and saw herself in Gumo Cheng's eyes, and for some reason, she had the urge to kiss him. In any case, there were only the 2 of them in the dining hall. As she was thinking, Suanan bent over and kissed Gumo Cheng on the cheek. Hubby, you're so nice. Not only did Gumo Cheng allow her to drink red wine, but he also allowed her to talk about what happened tonight at Su Zihan's banquet. Gumo Cheng repaid his innocence in front of so many people, including Mu Jin and his wife. This made Su Zihan and Jiang Mei go crazy with helplessness. When she thought of how Su Zihan and Jiang Mei looked so embarrassed while closing the film about a doctor at a banquet, Su Anan wanted to happily clap her hands in joy. When she looked at her husband in front of her, she felt even more handsome. After she finished kissing him and was about to leave, Gumo Cheng reached out and pulled her into his embrace. "You want to leave after flirting with me?" This girl always liked to tease him. After teasing him, she teased him halfway and sopped. "Eh?" Su Anan looked at Gumo Cheng suspiciously. She had to return to her seat to drink. "Give me a kiss in the future, I'll kiss you for a minute." As he said that, Gumo Cheng's eyes became dark and deep. He hugged Su Anan's waist and allowed her to sit on his thigh. Su Anan looked at him, her heart racing. Even her face was burning uncontrollably. Not only did she flirt with Gumo Cheng, she was clearly being flattered by him. "Hubby?" Su Anan called out to him. Her voice was softer than before, but he hugged her tighter. "Keep your head down," he said softly. Su Anan obediently lowered her head, her lips just closed to Gumo Cheng's. The two's chi intertwined. Su Anan's face was burning hot to the point that it was about to burn up. She was still sizing up Gumo Cheng's face when her lips were suddenly kissed. Her arm was already wrapped around Gumo Cheng's neck. She liked the feeling of being kissed by him. Before they even had dinner, the two of them hugged and kissed, causing the waiter to blush. It was better if they didn't come in. In the lobby, when Gumo Cheng appeared, the people in the restaurant already knew that he was Gumo Cheng. He thought to himself that Gumo Cheng had not gotten close to women for the past 10 years, but the reality in front of him was the complete opposite. Seeing Gumo Cheng kissing the lady in his arms, he was in a hurry to get closer to a woman. After the kiss ended, Su Anan quickly got up from Gumo Cheng's embrace. If this continued, she felt that she wouldn't need to eat dinner. The person in his embrace suddenly left. Gumo Cheng's embrace was empty, which made him uncomfortable. He pulled at his wrinkled shirt, and his gaze landed on Su Anan, whose lips had turned red and swollen from her kiss. Su Anan had already started pouring wine for herself, not even sparing Gumo Cheng a glance. She had already chosen the former for the wine. Gumo Cheng looked at Su Anan's tasting of the wine with a calm face. She really looked like a little wild cat. Gumo Cheng felt that his little wife was not as obedient as he thought. But even so, Su Anan's personality was different from what he had imagined, so he didn't feel annoyed. "Drink slowly." Gumo Cheng placed the dish into Su Anan's bowl. "You are allowed to drink happily tonight." Hearing Gumo Cheng's words, Su Anan's face revealed a smile. "Just say that her husband was good, that was really good." "Thank you, husband," Su Anan said sweetly. When she said hubby, she had already called him very smoothly, and the people who heard her had also been very smooth. Right? When he was with Su Anan, his smile grew wider, and his heart felt like it was stuffed up. Seeing that Su Anan was eating really quickly, Gumo Cheng asked, "Are you hungry?" Yes. Su Anan nodded. She gradually let go of herself in front of Gumo Cheng. She was extremely hungry while facing delicious food, but most importantly, she did not eat anything during the wedding banquet. It was also because the wedding ceremony had not even started that they saw 2 segments of the film, followed by Su Zihan's and Jiang Mei's brilliant performance. Speaking of this, Su Anan asked curiously, "Hubby, do you have proof that Su Zihan wronged me?" When Gumo Cheng was drinking, he looked at Su Anan and asked, "Strange, why didn't I take out the film before?" "Right." Su Anan nodded. She thought that the last time old lady Gu came to the Mu family to testify for her, Gumo Cheng must have had proof in her hands that Su Zihan slandered her. "They're not married," Gumo Cheng replied. Su Anan was startled. She did not fully understand. Who was not married? Is it Su Zihan and Mu Jinyu? Chapter 123. Just a moment ago, Su Zihan seemed to have said that she had already gotten her certificate from Mu Jinyu. This wedding was just a formality. It did not affect their marriage at all. If I had taken it out earlier, the Mu family would have easily annulled the marriage, Gumo Cheng continued, looking at Su Anan. Don't you think they are very suitable? Su Anan understood. And, she agreed with Gumo Cheng's words. Su Zihan and Mu Jinyu had already gotten married in reality. Even if today's movie were to be broadcast, it wouldn't change the fact that they were already married. Then, Su Zihan and Mu Jinyu started to make a ruckus. Su Anan sized up her husband when she thought about this. No wonder others say that you can't offend Mr. Gu, so it's actually true. His revenge was not ordinary. She had to learn from him so that no one would dare bully her. Hubby, you're amazing. Gumo Cheng saw the look of worship in the little girl's eyes. His thoughts were simple, but he was not a weak person. He would protect his woman, but he did not like women who were too weak. After drinking and eating until she was full, Su Anan leaned back in her chair in satisfaction. Gumo Cheng was addicted to cigarettes, so she walked to the window and smoked. A man is beautiful. Even the act of smoking is fascinating. Su Anan sat up, holding her chin, staring at Gumo Cheng. She always felt that she could only meet such a good man like Gumo Cheng in her dreams. Gumo Cheng finished smoking and walked over. Seeing Su Anan staring at him, the little girl's smile and the gentle look in her eyes made Gumo Cheng's heart freeze. Let's go, he said. Oh, Su Anan replied and followed behind him. She was not as impatient as the last time when she was drinking. Gumo Cheng had only let her taste a cup, but it was not enough for her. Most importantly, she liked listening to Gumo Cheng's words. The two of them walked out of the restaurant. Gumo Cheng stood at the entrance of the elevator and pressed the arrow. Hubby, you pressed the wrong button. Gumo Cheng turned his head around to look at Su Anan, whose face was completely red from the alcohol, and when the elevator door opened, he turned around and pulled Su Anan into his embrace. Nope. He led the way to the elevator and punched in the top floor number. Su Anan looked at Gumo Cheng, who was hugging her, puzzled. She did not ask where he was going. He could bring her anywhere anyway. She leaned into Gumo Cheng's chest, her ear right next to his heart. The smell of tobacco filled her nose, and the sound of his heartbeat beat by beat in her ears, driving her heart into chaos. It was a wonderful thing to have someone you loved at night. Su Anan was brought to the front of the door, and when she raised her head to look at Gumo Cheng, who was using a card to enter, she asked, Hubby, are you bringing me to get a room? As she spoke, Gumo Cheng had already lowered his head. Her scarlet face, bashful expression, and soft eyes were all teasing Gumo Cheng. Gumo Cheng didn't want to restrain himself. He had already confirmed that Su Anan was the woman he would be spending the rest of his life with. He kissed her, and this time, it didn't end that quickly. They kissed, each tasting tobacco and wine in the other's mouth. When they finished kissing, Su Anan was already lying on the bed. She had taken off her clothes because of Gumo Cheng, so she was very clear about what she was going to do next. At the same time, she felt a sense of anticipation toward her relationship with Gumo Cheng. Gumo Cheng whispered into her ear. Su Anan hugged him tightly and whispered into his ear with a smile, Gumo Cheng, I love you. She no longer liked him. She had fallen in love with him. From having him, her life became full and exciting. In the future, she would be the little wife he liked and do the things he liked. The two of them rolled on the bed. After an unknown period of time, the sky turned completely dark and Su Anan fell asleep in exhaustion. Gumo Cheng, who was beside her, did not fall asleep. Looking at Su Anan's sleeping face, he heard his own heart beating strongly, one after another. Love the little girl? Gumo Cheng, who hadn't had a taste of love for many years, couldn't tell whether love was love or not. He only knew that he had to be good to her. No matter who it was that bullied her, they had to help her. Su Anan was woken up by the noise outside. She opened her eyes in a daze and saw Gumo Cheng's face in front of her. Anan. At the same time that he called out to her, the sun had already risen outside. Su Anan turned to look outside. The hotel's suite was separated from the outside world by transparent glass, and the brilliance of the outside world was reflected in Su Anan's eyes. Su Anan was shocked that she could see the fireworks in the sky. It was so beautiful, so gorgeous. She was no longer sleepy. Gumo hugged her from behind, his voice whispering into her ear. Does it look good? Su Anan turned her head and asked in surprise. You asked someone to prepare it? Gumo Cheng didn't answer her question but said to her, Anan, happy birthday! With just one sentence, he had broken the defense line in Su Anan's heart, and the tears in her eyes just ran out. Happy birthday. Even Su Anan had forgotten her birthday. How many years had it been since she'd celebrated her birthday? Not with her family? Ever since the incident with her sister, she had never eaten a cake or received a birthday present from her family. Suwa had never given her a birthday, nor a present. Only her sister remembered it. She would prepare a present for her every year, telling her how happy it would be for her birthday. Fuxin was a friend, not a family member of hers. The Gumo Cheng in front of her was different. He was her husband. How could Gumo Cheng suddenly say, happy birthday, and not move her to tears? What are you crying for? With just one sentence, the little girl cried. Gumo Cheng furrowed his brows and asked nervously, was the present too bad, or did she not like it? I feel that my fate is too good, Su Anan sobbed with tears in her eyes. Gumo Cheng laughed when he heard Su Anan's explanation. I bought you a birthday present. Su Anan nodded, of course. What Gumo Cheng did for her was not as simple as just giving her a present. No wonder he would pick her up at the hotel right after he finished his business. No wonder he would take her to the restaurant to eat, allow her to drink red wine, and even take her to the top floor to get a room. Everything he did was to pave the way for this happy birthday. His gift was not only fireworks outside the window. No, my birthday isn't today. The gift you sent me doesn't count. Su Anan thought about her birthday after Su Zihan's wedding and said, you'll have to send it back tomorrow, she said. Is that so? Gumo Cheng said as he placed his watch in front of Su Anan's eyes. 10 p.m. Su Anan read the time on the map, then looked at Gumo Cheng's smiling eyes. Gumo Cheng was not mistaken. The gift he gave Su Anan was at midnight. Su Anan was startled. She did not know what to say to Gumo Cheng. Thank you. She had said it too many times already. Since she didn't know what to say, she might as well kiss him. While Su Anan was thinking, she had already climbed onto Gumo Cheng's body and lowered her head to kiss him. Gumo Cheng did not expect Su Anan to be so passionate. After the kiss ended, Gumo Cheng said, it's too late, you will not be able to take it. Gumo Cheng was worried about Su Anan's body, so he was displeased. I can take it. Hubby, you can't take it. Su Anan's words were simply courting death, and An, you asked for this yourself. Gumo Cheng warned her. Looking at her face, Su Anan laughed and nodded. Chapter 124. She then proactively bent over to kiss Gumo Cheng again. This time, Gumocheng would not let her finish kissing him and leave. The temperature in the suite rose again, the two of them tangled with each other, happiness and sweetness rushing into their hearts. This night was beautiful for Suanan. Jiang Mei dragged Su Zihan back to the Su family. Once Su Zihan returned to the Su family, she immediately rushed to the living room and smashed everything she saw onto the ground, without changing her wedding dress. After a while, the entire ground was in a mess. Following that, Jiang Mei, who was behind them, immediately rushed forward to stop Su Zihan when she saw how mad she was. Zihan, don't smash it, your dad is going to get angry when he comes back. Su Zihan did not care whether Su Hua was angry or not, she only knew that she was going crazy. Suanan, that damned bitch. Thinking about Suanan, Su Zihan's heart was filled with anger. She smashed everything beside her, her gaze landing on the large vase in the living room. Su Hua spent a huge sum of money to auction it off at auction. Jiang Mei anxiously said, Zihan, that vase is something your father thinks. You cannot smash it. Jiang Mei said in a stern voice. Suanan was not in the Su family. She had smashed the vase and there was no one around to frame her. Su Zihan did not listen. She only knew that she had to vent. When she reached out to push the vase, Jiang Mei's expression changed. She quickly walked in front of her to stop her, but it was already too late. With a paw sound, the floor was covered with broken pieces of the flower vase, causing Jiang Mei's eyelids to jump continuously. Her face darkened. After seeing that Su Zihan still wanted to smash other things, she shouted loudly, Zihan, enough! Su Zihan had not completely vented the anger in her heart. How could she smash something so small? Mom, she said unhappily, Su Anan, this slut harmed me. Why didn't you help me? Jiang Mei didn't help her, and directly slapped herself in front of so many people with the old lady Jiang. Why didn't I help you? Jiang Mei asked. The moment she saw the doctor's film at the wedding feast, she panicked and tried to stop the film from being broadcast. In order to get to the stage, she even made herself fall down in front of all the guests. Zihan, stop being so willful. Jiang Mei advised, since this matter is already like this, it would be useless even if you were to smash everything here. Su Zihan only knew that she wouldn't have a good time, and this anger in her heart had suffocated her to death. No. She angrily went back to Jiang Mei, fiercely smashing the thing in her hand to the ground again. Jiang Mei looked at the broken pieces on the ground, her expression cold. Still wanting to find something to smash on, she walked in front of her and struck her with her palm. Enough. Su Zihan felt that she had suffered enough. First was the film at the banquet, then Mu Jinyu had kicked her, and old lady Jiang had given her a slap. Now, Jiang Mei's mother, who loved her the most, had also hit her. Su Zihan's tears rolled out of her eyes. Mother, even you want to hit me. If it wasn't for Suanan, why would those movies have been released? And Gumocheng, how could that man be Gumocheng? Gumocheng was not ugly, on the contrary he had an outstanding appearance. He was the type of man who could make girls keep walking forward, leaving Mu Jinyu far behind in the distance. Zihan. Seeing Su Zihan crying, Jiang Mei hugged her painfully. Mom didn't purposely hit you. Mom knows that you've been wronged, but it's useless for you to smash this place. Instead, it will make your dad angry. Jiang Mei analyzed. How are you going to explain this pile of fragments to your father? It's not like you don't understand your father's personality. What happened today has already caused him to lose all his face. Now that you've smashed his antique vase, what do you think he will do? After smashing everything, Su Zihan, who had calmed down a bit, heard Jiang Mei's words and started to feel afraid. Mom, she cried. Jiang Mei wiped away Su Zihan's tears. Zihan, you can't be this willful anymore. You are now Mu family's daughter-in-law. As for the matter today, whether or not Mu family wanted Su Zihan, that was impossible. Mu Jinyu and Su Zihan had already gotten their proof. It was impossible for them to play with her daughter and force her to return so easily. If Suanan was here, then it can be said that she smashed these vases. Jiang Mei said again, it was not the first time that someone had framed Suanan. If you want to smash it, then you should also smash Suanan's room, Jiang Mei said. After smashing Suanan's room, Su Hua would not say anything. Hearing Jiang Mei's suggestion, Su Zihan turned and ran towards Suanan's room. That's right, smash up all of Suanan's room, let her come back and sleep outside. Su Zihan ran to the stairs on the second floor and stopped moving. She looked at the corridor that led to Suanan's room and then looked up. Zihan, where are you going? Jiang Mei saw that Su Zihan was actually running up the stairs, and when she thought of Su Ruochu, who was on the top floor, she asked anxiously. The angry Su Zihan didn't mean for her to rush to the top floor to vent all the anger on Suanan and find Su Ruochu to settle the score. Zihan, you can't go to the top floor. But Jiang Mei couldn't call her Su Zihan at all, because when Su Zihan thought of a method that could make Suanan feel pain, she did not care about Su Hua forbidding her and Jiang Mei from going to the top floor. Su Zihan had been to the top floor a few times, but she had never been to Su Ruochu's room. Every time she reached the top floor, she would be scared away by the gloom of the corridor. Or if she was seen by Su Hua or herself, she would be ordered to leave. Now, angry, she walked down the corridor on the top floor, looking at the dim hallway, a little scared. This damn place was too suitable for that crazy big sister Suanan to live in. Susie Han slowly pushed the door and entered. As it was nighttime, the room was very quiet with the lights on. Hima was currently feeding Surochu with a bowl when she heard sounds of movement and turned towards the door. Susie Han stood at the door and looked at Surochu, who was on the bed. She took a glance and was shocked at Surochu's appearance. She looked similar to Suanan, but Surochu was even prettier. Surochu's facial features were exquisite because she stayed in the house all year round. Her skin was white, as pretty as a person in a painting, except that she had become thinner, and her eyes were dull. Zihan. Jianmei caught up, and when she saw Susie Han at the door, she called out to her. Let's go down. Jianmei pulled Susie Han's hand and said. Susie Han looked at Surochu, and when she thought of Suanan, she flung her hand away and immediately rushed in. Surochu sensed Susie Han coming in. She raised her head and looked at her blankly. Surochu's gaze immediately made Susie Han think of Suanan. The two sisters' eyes were too similar. Second miss, why did you come in? Hima asked. You can't come here. Susie Han did not speak. She lowered her head and saw the bowl held by the Hima, then looked at Surochu, and threw the bowl on the ground. Eat, 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 eat. You lunatic, you only know how to eat. Surochu was a madman, but she was a beautiful madman. Surochu did not react. She only lowered her head and played with her fingers. Being left out by Surochu, Susie Han suddenly recalled what happened at her own wedding. Suanan, you think that just because you followed Gumo Cheng, I can't do anything about you. The humiliation you have caused me today, I want to take back from this madman. Saying that, Susie Han had already raised her hand, wanting to fiercely slap Surochu across the face. Chapter 125, Second Miss. What are you doing? Seeing that Susie Han wanted to beat Surochu up, the Hima immediately spoke out. After holding back her anger for a while, Susie Han pushed Hima away. She stared at Surochu who was on the bed, her eyes filled with coldness, and threw a punch towards Surochu. Zihan. When she raised her hand, Jianmei had already walked forward and grabbed onto Susie Han's hand before her hand could fall. Have you had enough? After smashing up Suwa's antique vase, she actually had the guts to run upstairs to beat Surochu up. Although Surochu was a madman, she was also Suwa's eldest daughter. This daughter of hers still held an important position in Suwa's heart. Furthermore, Suwa had something that he needed Gumo Cheng for. After beating Surochu up, how could Suwa forgive her? Nope. Susie Han replied angrily. It was all Suanan's fault. If not for her, my wedding would have ended up like this. Who the hell does she think she is? Just by following Gumo Cheng, she can ride on top of me. Jianmei said coldly, she has already mounted you. This was the truth. The truth that Susie Han found the most unacceptable. It had always been her bullying Suanan, snatching Suanan's clothes, stealing Suwa's pampered, stealing Mujinyu this man. Now, it was actually Suanan who climbed on top of her head, causing her to fail in her wedding, causing her to be loathed by the Merino, frantically being reported by the media, and being laughed at by everyone in the Peace City. This was all facilitated by Suanan. She couldn't find Suanan, so she could only deal with Suanan's crazy sister. If you hadn't heard the rumors and thought that Gumo Cheng was ugly, you would have rather died than marry into the Gu family. Right now, it is not Suanan's turn to act arrogantly in front of you. Jianmei said coldly. I don't care. Susie Han said angrily. Even if that bitch Suanan followed Gumo Cheng, she still wouldn't be able to sit on my head. Why should she? She's a bitch. Susie Han was already used to scolding Suanan as a slut, so when she heard him call her a slut, Surochu frowned. Then what do you want? Jianmei asked. Don't worry about it. Gumo Cheng just said that she, Suanan, was his own wife in front of so many reporters. That's it, Zihan? You can't even compare to Suanan. Hearing Jianmei's words, Susie Han clenched her fists. Unless? Before Jianmei could finish speaking, Susie Han asked anxiously. Unless what? Unless you snatch Gumo Cheng away from Suanan. However, Gumo Cheng would not like someone like Susie Han. Jianmei was very sure. Saying this, Jianmei suddenly thought of an idea. Just because Zihan was unable to do so, did not mean that there were no other girls that could replace her. Hearing Jianmei's words, Susie Han thought of Gumo Cheng's handsome face and felt that what Jianmei said was feasible. But then she thought about Gumo Cheng who had been slapped 10 times. Mom, he won't like me. Susie Han was aware of her own strength. Jianmei looked at Susie Han, then looked at Surochu, who was focused on covering her blanket on the bed. He doesn't like you. Let's follow Suanan and find him a type of bed to fall for. Zihan, do not be anxious about anything. Just because Suanan has climbed on top of you right now, does not mean that she will be able to suppress you for the rest of her life. Hearing Jianmei's words, Susie Han's anger disappeared. Jianmei brought Susie Han and left the room on the top floor. She looked at Hima coldly and said, You are not allowed to reveal any of what has happened tonight in front of Master. The Hima looked at Jianmei fearfully and said, I know, madam. She was just a servant. She did not dare to offend her own wife. After Jianmei and Susie Han left, when Hima saw that Surochu's dinner was overturned, she went downstairs to get another bowl. Surochu watched as they all left. She got off the bed, walked to the window, and looked out at the dark night. She was afraid that she would jump down from the window, so even the windows were rigged with railings. She had been trapped in this house for 7 years. 7 years. Not long after, Suwa returned. The reporters at the banquet were staring at him intently, asking him what was his father thinking about Su Zihan doing such a heartless thing. What do you think? At that time, Suwa was so angry that he wanted to slap Su Zihan on the face. He doted on her like a precious pearl in his palm, yet she actually did such a heartless thing, causing him to lose all face. He returned with a cold face. The living room had already been cleaned up by the servants. Junmei, who was sitting on the sofa, stood up and smiled as she walked over. "I'm back." Her smiling face made Suhua even more angry. Even until now, this woman still treated everything as if it had never happened. He did not think much and slapped Junmei in the face. A palm print landed on Junmei's face. This was the second time Suhua had hit her. The first time was 16 years ago when she carried Su Zihan to the hospital to see Suanan's mother, the woman called He Qing. She proudly flaunted her and Suhua's love for each other, flaunting how Su Zihan was able to get along with her. After he left, He Qing's condition suddenly worsened, and he died not long after. On the night that He Qing died, Suhua came to her side. Hearing that her love rival had died, Junmei was ecstatic. She did not feel that she had killed He Qing out of anger. She felt that her chance to be righted had come. She, as a Chiang Kai-shek, had humiliated herself and became Suhua's lover, and that she was truly wronged. He didn't expect that when Suhua saw her that day, he didn't say anything and directly slapped her in the face. The force of that slap was so strong that even blood flowed out of the corner of Junmei's mouth. Although Suhua married her quickly and brought her and Su Zihan into the Su family. However, Junmei still remembered that night's expression and that slap on the face. Hubby. This was the second time she had been beaten up by Suhua. "I'm sorry, I've humiliated you." Junmei was a smart person. The footage at the banquet proved that she and Su Zihan had wrongly accused Su Anan with their child, and then complained to Suhua that he wasn't the right person. Suhua wouldn't listen to them. Thus, he admitted it. Suhua walked to the sofa with a cold expression. As he took out his cigarette, he asked coldly, "Zihan." Junmei knew in her heart that Suhua would definitely take revenge on his behalf once he returned, so she let Su Zihan go upstairs to sleep, while she blocked Su Zihan from the bottom of the stairs. Zihan knew she was wrong. She cried for a long time when she came back, and said that she had embarrassed her father. Was it a shameful thing? Suhua looked at Junmei coldly, and laughed coldly. "You really taught such a good daughter." She was extremely willful and selfish, to the point that she didn't want to have children herself. She even pushed the blame to Suanan. "I'm sorry, husband," Junmei said. "We were the ones who were wrong." Zihan has always been afraid that Anan would take Mujinyu away. She really loves Mujinyu too much. That's why she thought of putting the child's matter on Suanan. "If you love her so much, why did you have to knock the child out?" Suhua ridiculed. Junmei didn't know what to say in response to her words. Zihan has already gotten the certificate from Mujinyu. Su family is not suitable for her. Mu family wanted to end the engagement, but it was impossible. After what happened today, Zihan's reputation had gone bad. Furthermore, she had already started a relationship with Mujinyu, and the famous sex paid attention to sons and virgins. No one liked people like Su Zihan. Therefore, Su Zihan had to go through the door of the Mu family.